All right. I am very excited today to have with me someone who is an inventor that holds 2 utility patents, working on a design patent, 2 trademarks. If her story sounds any bit familiar, you may have seen her on the Bethany Frankel show on QVC. She has a product that has sold in stores such as Walmart in Puerto Rico. I don't mean Walmart.com, but actually in the store. Somebody could buy it there. The Container Store. She's made quite a few sales on her own website, as well as just recently getting into Amazon, where a lot of us are selling now. I am very excited to have with me the inventor of Click and Carry, Kim Meckwood, to talk a little bit about her story. So Kim, thank you so much for being here on Maximizing E-commerce today.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm thrilled to be here. And thanks so much for having me. This is such an honor. Thank you. And congratulations on your new podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And the reason we have gotten acquainted here is I was in the room at Seller Summit where you won the 5-minute pitch, which we'll get into here in a little bit because I know everyone would be interested in that. So the 5-minute pitch, which is something that, in case someone's not familiar with, it was basically like this process where they had all these people with products that were selling, and it was whittling it down, and the winner won $50,000, and the judges were Scott Volker, Mike Jackness, Steve Chu, and Greg Mercer, which people may know from their podcasts or from Jungle Scout or whatever the case is. So that's super exciting. So congratulations on that big win as well.
Thank you so much. I'm absolutely thrilled, and I'm so excited. I'm going to have my first mentorship meeting at the end of July, and I can't wait. I'm gonna do all the studying I can before I meet with the guys, but I'm going to have multiple days with those 4 amazing guys. I feel so lucky.
Yeah, I know a lot of people listening would be like, wow, how do I get that? Because that's 4 of them in a room to answer your questions and stuff. So that's just an incredible value right there. And because you're not having to pay for that out of your $50,000, are you?
I'm not. That was part of the win, which I thought was the real valuable part of the win. So if someone is interested, they could enter in the 5-minute pitch for season 2. And
oh, awesome!
Yes, they're gonna do it again.
And you never know. You never know.
That's
so,
right.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the product that got you to 5-minute pitch, because you went a different path than a lot of us in e-commerce, where we look and see like what's selling on Amazon or what's selling, in different websites or eBay or wherever, and then go find a similar product to private label. You actually came up with the idea of a product and you sold it. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with your own product and then got patents and everything.
Sure. And I'm sorry you had to see me moving around there. I realized I'm here telling you about my product and I don't even have a product in my hand. So I have the product.
All right. So people will be listening with audio, and then some people, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the actual product. So describe your product and how you came up with it.
Okay. So this is a Click and Carry. A Click and Carry looks kind of like a boomerang. It's about 5.5 inches long, and it's about 1.5 inches thick. And it has two areas, 2 channels that you can insert bags in. So what happens is you twist the Click and Carry open and it forms an X. And then there are these grooves that allow you to put the edge of a handle bag in. So it could be plastic, it could be paper, canvas, even your purse will do the job. Then once you load up the bags, and the key is to evenly distribute the weight, you click the top back into place so all those bags are locked into the Click and Carry. And then there's a comfy gel grip on the bottom. So then you could either hold your grocery bags or your purchases in your hand, or even better, if you evenly distribute the weight of the Click and Carry, you could wear the groceries over your shoulder and your hands free. So that's the real key, because if you hold your groceries in your hand, all the weight goes to the extremity, to your hand and to your arm. But if you wear it over your shoulder, you split the weight with your back, and your back is such a good support system. So even though it doesn't make the weight of the groceries any less, it feels like half the weight because of your back being the awesome support system that it is. And the funny thing is, I invented it for groceries because I needed some help with carrying the groceries, because I insist on doing it in just one quick trip. But the best part is that people use it for other reasons. For example, they'll use it to carry sports equipment, as a ski boot tow, for paint cans and construction pails.
Oh, wow.
You could use it for dry cleaning because those hangers really hurt, and you could put a whole bunch of dry cleaning on each side and wear it over your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So you could even walk multiple dogs at once. So let's say you have 2 dogs and the dogs tend to crisscross and you have to hold a leash in each hand. Well, with the click and carry, if they crisscross, you just turn it over and boom, you're back to normal. So there's a lot of fun things you could do with click and carry.
That's quite the idea, and I can totally see the utility of it. And I think I need to go out and just buy one because
I'll send you one.
Oh, awesome! Thank you.
I'll send you 2, one for each shoulder. You need
awesome. I'll definitely take usage of those. Wow, I'm excited because the cool thing is, like, you know, I think about, like, when I get back home from, like, the grocery store, and I'm in my driveway trying to, like, strategize, like, how do I do this all in one trip? And I end up like, okay, the milk is heavy, so that one goes like a little bit up my wrist. And then if like something's light, like bread, like maybe I can just balance it on my pinky, and then it's just too many bags and everything. So yours, you can just balance it out and hold it much simpler. So I see how that works. And I can see some of the other utilities for that as well. So how did you even come up with this idea?
So this is a sad but true story. So I used to have this awesome boyfriend, and when I would come home from shopping, I would call him and he would come down and get all the groceries. So I would just take the light ones. And I lived in an upstairs apartment at the time. And when we broke up, I had to do my own grocery shopping. So I would just put it off and put it off. I was eating out all the time, starting to get chubby, getting to become unhealthy. So I knew there had to be a better way. And I think that I think the mind is so powerful, and I think I knew I wanted to come up with something, and I don't know if my subconscious picked it up or what, but I had a dream one night, and it sounds ridiculous, but it's a true story, and I'm a really visual person, and my dreams are always very, very vivid. And in my dream, it was I don't know if you've ever watched the show The Jetsons, but in The Jetsons,
oh yeah, I remember George Jetson and his boy Elroy. Jane, his wife.
Yes. So you remember how the Jetsons cars moved? They zipped in and zipped down, kind of a helicopter?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
So in my dream, it was basically a car train, but it was really a train. It wasn't a car.
Okay.
So there were all these Jetsons cars lined up, and this car zipped in and zipped down. And the click and carry was flat. It wasn't curved like it is now. It was flat. So in essence, it was the male-female part of a train car. And once the car zipped in and zipped down, the click and carry that was flat automatically closed into place, and the train took off forward. So I'm like, oh, that's the answer. It has to have 2 compartments, and there has to be a space in the middle to lock each side out. So that was the answer. And then I originally made it looking like that. It was just a plain line. But then I realized if you make it curved, it could sit perfectly on your shoulder where you don't even have to balance it. It will automatically balance itself. So it was re-engineered, and I made it that way. And then I didn't have a lot of funds. So what I did is I actually hired a student from the Pasadena Design School, and I paid her to help me with the prototyping portion of inventing, because at her school, they had access to this crazy 3D printer before 3D printers were even popular like they are now. So each of my prototypes were about $175. So I would make just great modifications, because that to me at the time was a lot of money, and it's actually still a lot of money to me. So having gone through 9 prototypes, I found the winner. So I was ready to take the gamble, and I had a mold made. Everything kind of fell into place. It turns out I had a neighbor across the hall in my current condo who worked for Thai, and they make Beanie Babies. So he hooked me up with this factory. I made this mold, and I knew it wasn't going to work, but I needed to actually make a physical product to find out what my flaws would be. So I figured out what my flaws were. My flaws were, and I hope people could see this on Instagram, but originally this part of the click and carry was a straight line. And for your podcast people, there's a locking mechanism for the click and carry on either side.
Mm-hmm.
And originally I made it with just a single line, but that would provide no traction. So it would click into place, but then click right out of place. So I redesigned it with kind of like a little tooth. So there was an extra little hook with a male female part. And as a result, I modified the first mold. I came up with a winning prototype, and that's when I decided to go for a utility patent. And it was awarded about 3 years later. It took 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So were you selling it while you're waiting on the patent?
No, I was just preparing. I was working a full-time job and preparing because I didn't want to introduce this to the market before I was protected. That was really important to me. So I ended up getting the utility patent. I made another modification, ended up getting a second utility patent.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it took so long, let me be clear, because I don't want to deter anyone from trying to file for a patent. Please file. At the time when I filed, our government didn't have a whole lot of money. We were in a recession, so they didn't have as many people at the United States Postal Service, Postal Office at that time.
USPS, whatever.
Yeah, it's USPTO.
Oh, yes, gotcha. Patent and Trademark Office.
Correct.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, just I guess working with them over the years, they ultimately kept in touch with me, and they ultimately did a story on me in their newsletter. It's called, it was really neat. It's called The Inventor's Eye. And I was in a section called Spark of Genius. I was super excited to do it, and it was a lot of fun. And I'll make sure that I give you the link to it for your
Yeah, please. I'll make sure to
viewers.
include that in the show notes and the description.
Perfect. Yeah, because it's really cool. But for me, I was thrilled to be able to interview with them, but even better, that gives me extra patent protection because I was published by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So that just gives you a little bit of extra credibility, number one, but protectability, number two. So that was really cool.
Yeah. So you say not only can you go see the actual patent, but here's the article they wrote.
Yes, it's really neat. And that's actually a really cool periodical, the Inventor's Eye newsletter. You could hear about other inventors and all the cool things that are happening in our world.
Right. That's awesome. Wow. Wow.
Thank you.
So then you have the patent, and now it's time to bring it to market. So, a lot of people listening are so used to like, okay, there's keywords, and then I, bid on this keyword, and I try to, do whatever to launch it on Amazon. But you didn't have all that because this is something you're inventing from scratch. So how do you even get this in front of people to know they're going to buy it?
Oh my gosh, just a lot of hard work. Just doing local trade shows, doing farmers markets, going to little mom and pop businesses and trying to convince them to sell the product. And then ultimately, I ended up going to an amazing trade show called the Home and Houseware Show in Chicago. And that's where I was really able to meet with a lot of different retailers and to get a lot of connections. I was in a small section. It was all I can afford. It was about $8,000, which was a lot of money to me because I quit my job thinking I was going to do this and I was going to be successful right out of the gate, and that's not the way it worked. So this last trade show was kind of like a Hail Mary pass. And what happens is in Inventor's Corner, you get this opportunity to present your product. And there's a panel of judges, and unbeknownst to me, QVC was one of the judges there that day. So which was really cool. They asked a lot of really good questions. I explained the product, and this is the kind of product that needs a demonstration. And to revert quickly back to the 5-minute pitch, and not to go on a tangent, but they believe that the way to sell this product is by doing little snippets showing the product in use to different demographics. And that's why QVC was a perfect fit for me, because I was able to demonstrate my product live on TV and show them how it works and how many groceries you can carry and all the other fun things that you could do with it. So what happened with that is I tried to reach out to QVC afterwards. I had the woman's card. Her name was Bernadette. She's wonderful. But she didn't return my calls. Well, I found out it was because she had contacted Bethany Frankel, and Bethany Frankel at the time was doing a segment on her talk show called Bethany in Your Business, where she would give women entrepreneurs advice and sometimes a stipend, like $5,000 or $10,000 to help them in their business. So turns out I was her last episode ever, and there was a big surprise for me that I had no clue. I was just excited to go on and get her advice, to be honest.
Sure.
And then we'll include the clip too, because it's probably the best day of my life.
Okay.
And I go on to the show, and I end up getting a contract with QVC by their two biggest hosts at the time, which was David Venable and Lisa Robertson. It was super cool. It was a big Cinderella moment for me. And I was really happy I was able to share it with my mom and one of my sisters too. It was a really awesome day.
Wow. So that's pretty cool. So you got to go take your product and actually sell it on QVC. So what was that experience like?
Oh my gosh, nerve-wracking, but really exciting and a lot of fun. My first episode was actually the day after the Bethany episode. I had actually filmed the Bethany episode a month before, but the very next day I went to QVC, which is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in Westchester.
Okay.
And I didn't know what to expect. I had to take courses on how to present on TV and all of that good stuff. And I had the best host. It was David Venable. I was on in the kitchen with David and just had so much fun and sold out in 7 minutes.
Wow. And how many units was that?
It was originally 13,600, but they had to add another additional 5,000 because I sold more than what I had in stock. And then eventually
that's all in the same 7 minutes?
Yeah. It was
wow.
Crazy. And then after that was delivered, there was, because this happened so quickly, there was a delay in the customers getting their product because, like I said, it was kind of an overnight.
Well, they added 5,000 units that weren't expected, so I can
imagine. So when the customers finally did receive their product, then they ordered another 60,000 units. It was crazy. And the 60,000 units lasted a while. That was multiple visits to QVC, and
right.
You learn as you go along. For example, when I first started to go on, luckily I was with David, who is a huge draw. But eventually I was given advice by one of the other hosts to make a B-roll. A B-roll is a little video that shows your product in action. And it was 53 seconds. And it really explains all the different uses. It shows moms struggling with their kids and, getting to the front door and being able to unlock their door and not have to regather 5 or 6 loose grocery bags. And it showed someone with sports equipment. It showed someone with paint cans and construction pails and dry cleaning. And just to see the visual and describe the visual made a lot more sense. And because people are not naturally creative, so to see that displayed really makes a difference. So if I could advise anyone out there on things to do to promote your product, it's make little videos. And that's what I'm hoping to be able to do with the 5-minute pitch guys. We'll make little snippets that go after just moms, and then little snippets that go after the ski boot and snowboarders, and appeal to those certain target markets.
Well, and that's a good point, because you're having these little niche ways of saying, this is my product and this is the problem it solves. Now, yours is a product that solves a problem a lot of people didn't even realize they had, and you're an inventor, so you've got this thing that's your own. But even if someone had something that's like a spatula, I mean, you could still show and highlight and remind people the problems their spatula is solving. And we forget sometimes not everybody thinks of things the way we do as the one who's selling it. So that's super cool that you're coming up with that. And, cause you've got that, you've got that road to hoe that's kind of an uphill battle of getting people to understand what your product is, but you've got it in front of people and you've pitched it and you keep preaching it, and, it's clearly working. So, so now that you got to the whole point of like, you won the 5-minute pitch. How did you even know about this 5-minute pitch thing?
So I am embarrassed to say that I didn't know the magic that is Amazon. In fact, at the trade show, I was taught, oh, don't go on Amazon. Your product will be duplicated. Someone will steal your idea. So I was afraid of Amazon and I didn't do it. And my friend Jacinda, I used to work with her at Medtronic. That was my day job at the time. I work in neurology, and Jacinda called me last summer. I was in Hawaii for work, and she said, do you listen to this podcast? Do you listen to the Jungle? There's this guy from Jungle Scout, this guy from Ecom Group. So she told me all about it, and she said they're having a contest called the 5-minute pitch. So I looked into it. I was in Hawaii, so I wasn't even able to make a video. So I submitted a video that I had submitted to a show that everyone knows, Shark Tank. I applied to Shark Tank that year, earlier that summer. So I sent in my audition tape to 5-minute pitch, and I was accepted. So later that year, it was in October, I found out that I was one of the 32 finalists, and I had been listening to all the podcasts. By then I was actually on board and starting to think about, oh, maybe I should go on to Amazon. Maybe I'm starting with the hard part first by going into retail.
Right.
So I learned the magic that is these guys from the 5-minute pitch. I didn't know that there's this whole world out there. So I'm a newbie to your world. I'm coming on my year anniversary in August. I'm really excited. So I caught up on all their podcasts and found out all about their businesses. I filmed, I think it was in November. I made it to from the final 32, I made it to the final 8. And then I found out I made it to the final 4. So that was just recent. It was in May when I met you. And I'm happy to say that I was able to win that competition. And I just feel so lucky. I'm thrilled about the money. It's a huge help. But the real benefit is that I get to have those 4 guys as my mentor. That's huge. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, I know Scott Volker, of course, pretty well. He's a good guy. And as I'm sure you can attest, like the Scott you hear on his podcast is the Scott in real life. Like he's very true to how he is. And
high energy.
Oh yeah. Very high energy. I'll get these Voxer messages at 7 in the morning. Hey, Kevin, good morning. Like, oh.
That's his voice. Exactly.
Yeah.
You even have the accent.
Yeah. He's awesome. And Mike Jackness is a, wealth of information, and Steve Chu is a really good guy. And, Greg Mercer is probably the one I know the least, but, he definitely is very knowledgeable. I mean, he built
super smart,
8-figure e-commerce business, but at the same time too, this software empire. So, I mean, he's definitely got to understand, business in general, but, both of his software empire and his e-commerce is very Amazon focused. So he definitely knows a lot. So I know he'll bring a lot to you there. So that's super cool. So how's your road been on Amazon so far?
So I'm learning a lot. It hasn't been as smooth as I had hoped. I had someone approach me, and he told me he could help me with basically getting up there and ramping up my site and all the keywords and all of that good stuff. And he's been great. His name is Richard. He's been a huge help. But we ran into a little bit of a snafu in the beginning where I told him I want to use my UPC codes, and Amazon issued me their own UPC codes. So I don't know if there was a mix up with Amazon or with Richard, but that set me back a little bit of time. But now we're up and running, and I'm amazed every day that I get these orders because I'm not doing any really big advertising just yet. I wanted to wait until I had time with my mentors to really soak in their knowledge before I wasted any money. But yeah, I'm getting orders out of left field, and it's pretty exciting. I'm working right now on a 2-pack, but I'm also going to do some bundling. I'm sourcing some bags, some reusable bags. So I'm going to sell 2 click and carries and 4 reusable bags so that click and carry is a more intuitive purchase. That way people say, oh, okay, well, here's a click and carry. What are we going to do with it? Well, they're going to have the bags right there in their cute little click and carry kit to be able to use the click and carry and their bags. And I'm actually working on another product that attaches to the click and carry. It's a strapping system that would allow a surfer to wear their surfboard like a purse on one of their shoulders. And then if their shoulder starts to hurt, they just switch sides. Or they could use their stand-up paddleboard, or even a ladder for the construction industry. So I'm working on expanding the line. And once I implement all the tools that I learned from the 5-minute pitch guys, I think it's going to blow up. We'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, my suggestion, we can talk more offline, but I definitely think you should at least start doing some advertising on Amazon. I mean, you could
Okay.
take some keywords that, people might be looking for, like bag holder or whatever, like
Uh-huh.
something related to what you're doing, and at least get it up there. And, you can always pause it if it's, if you're losing your shirt on a keyword or something, but there's definitely ways about going about that. But it's interesting because, most of us, again, we're used to, like, the demand is there and we're just basically taking out of the demand, so to speak, trying to get our slice of the pie. You're trying to bake your pie on Amazon. So it definitely is a unique way of doing it. How have things been going on your own website?
I get a lot of hits because I do a lot of Instagram and Facebook posts. I hired someone
Mm-hmm.
to help me with advertisements. So I post at least 5 times a week, and
Okay.
it brings people to both that site and to Amazon. So I can't believe I missed the boat for so long. Imagine if I started this 5 years ago when I started hitting up the retail stores. This is just a gold mine, and I can't believe I missed the boat for so long, but I'm finally cool. One of the cool kids like you. And I'm going to take your advice. And I took notes when you told me about the keyword advertising. I'm going to do that right away, because isn't there a big Amazon party happening on the 16th and 17th of July?
Which Amazon party?
The Amazon Prime party. It's Amazon
Oh,
Day.
yes. Yeah. Prime Day. So, depending on people are listening to this, we may have missed Prime Day, but yeah, Prime Day is coming up, and that's a big way to get it out there and get in front of more people. So, yeah, to your point, for anyone that's listening to this, depending on where they're hearing this, maybe it's before the holidays, maybe they're catching this right as Prime Day is coming on. Like, just those little things you do that can cast a wider net, as I'd like to talk about, you will catch more fish, meaning more customers. So if it's, doing a little bit more with paid advertising, optimizing your keywords, just making sure Amazon knows how to get your product in front of the right customers. Because the nice thing is their algorithm is really on the same team as you. They want to get sales. Whereas like Google, organic and paid, they're not necessarily on the same team. They kind of are, but their goal is really like more about information and getting information in front of people. Amazon wants to make a sale and you want to make a sale. So
Mm-hmm.
the nice thing is we're all working on the same team there. So yeah. So to your point, that big Prime Day party, so to speak, that's coming up here in 2 weeks as we record this, will be a exciting thing. So hopefully you'll get some good results out of Prime Day.
Absolutely.
I would suggest you might even want to try doing like Amazon giveaways.
Okay.
So in Seller Central, you can go to like, advertising tab, and then there's giveaways. And then basically
cool.
you could, buy your product and then set it to like, it gives it away to 1 out of 1,000 people or whatever. And then, forever, whoever loses, they could get a coupon. So the coupon code might be for 20% off. I haven't tried that in a while, but I've had some success trying that in the past, especially with a new product. And
I'm going to do that.
Yeah, don't quote me on this, but I want to say you can, at the times I've done it in the past, one of the things you could do is you could set like a YouTube video where they had to watch X percentage of the video in order to be eligible to enter for the prize. And they know instantly if they win or not. And so if they don't, well, they at least learned about your product. But then if they don't, you could also, the system would offer them, if you set it up that way, to be able to get like 20% off or whatever coupon code you assign to it. But then also some people might win, and then the people that watch that video, they're just more in tune to understand your product. So
that makes sense. And I could do that 53-second B-roll. I know that's a lot of time, but maybe if they watch 20 seconds of it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And then they have more of an understanding of what your product is. And then, the next time they're coming in from groceries or holding paint cans or whatever, they're going to be like, oh, wow, I need to get that thing. What was that thing I was looking up? And then they go back on Amazon and search for it and find it. So yeah, so that would definitely be some suggestions I would have.
Thank you.
But it sounds like you're doing something that I know I need to do a better job at. And I'm just now starting to put a little bit more emphasis on Instagram. So what are you doing with Instagram, and what's working and what hasn't worked?
Believe it or not, the videos work best of all.
Uh-huh.
And it has to be short. It has to be under a minute, but I find that under 30 seconds is even better. And even a 10-second video, if you could relay the message in 10 seconds, you're golden. And that's how I catch their attention. I do all the different uses, but I also have a secret weapon.
What's that?
So click and carry can be used by dogs as well, at least special dogs.
Mm.
And in this case, I have two click and carry cheerleaders. They're actually my canine surf team. They
Nice.
surf and they carry click and carries, but these dogs carry click and carry in their mouth. And
Oh, wow.
everyone wants to see a dog video, especially a cute
Right.
Labrador video. There's one blonde lab and one black lab.
Mm-hmm.
And through Cole and Charlie, that's their names, I found a group called Canine Companions. Canine Companions teach Labradors and Golden Retrievers how to help their handicapped humans. So I donate a bunch of click and carries to Canine Companions because one trick that they could teach the dog is to carry groceries or whatever they need to carry for their human in their mouth. So those videos seem to be the highlight. And then of course videos where if you make the video comedic, it always does the job. So you could show someone struggling with groceries. And I'm sure you've seen those memes where people will say, I'll do anything to do this in one trip. And they have a million bags. So we do little plays off that.
Nice.
Yeah, we make silly videos. They're not all serious.
That's awesome. So you have these videos, and that seems to be running a lot of the traffic. Do you run the video? Like, is there like a shop now link, or is it more get the awareness and then retarget them?
Both. We do both. We've tested both. So we could add a button, and we do that on Instagram mostly because that's where the quick buy seems to happen. So we'll do an add a button advertisement instead of doing it right on the Amazon Prime page. And also we'll make sure that we write in the notes or, in the tags, available at Amazon Prime or available at clickandcarry.com. Keywords will be put into the post as well.
Okay.
It's been working.
You're challenging me with my product to do a little bit more Instagram advertising. So yeah, thank you. So
of course.
right there for that one. Well, cool. So for we'll close this up here in a moment, but can you just, for anyone listening who's thinking about, maybe I want to invent a product, but my mind keeps telling me it's not going to work. What advice would you have for them?
My advice would be to make a prototype first. And there's so many resources. For example, when I invented this, I didn't have a whole lot of money. So I went to the Pasadena Design School. There are local colleges. There are people who are studying product design, people who are becoming mechanical engineers or product engineers. You could pay someone to help you with the prototyping. And there are other groups like where I live, there are some government funded programs. There's the South Bay Entrepreneurial Center. I work with a government funded group in Pasadena. My mentors there are amazing. In fact, one of my mentors is a professor of entrepreneurial studies at USC, and you could get all those things for free by working with the government Small Business Association funded programs. You could do your research, make sure you Google and find out if there's anything out there like it, if there's a need for it. There's a book, it sounds really hokey, but it's called Mom Inventor's Handbook Edition 2. And I use that because it tells you all the ins and outs of how to patent a product, how to do it expensively, inexpensively, how to source a factory to make a mold, how to fundraise, how to find investors. It's been a really good guide to helping a small inventor like me get out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because, the thing of it is, oftentimes we have this thing in our head that, inventors are like these mad scientists that go off into like a room all by themselves and don't talk to anyone. And then, we think that like, Thomas Edison, came out after 50 years with a light bulb and a couple other things, and that was it. But like, there was probably other people involved. In the case with you, there was other people involved. We were talking before we got on this interview that, I had a hang up for the longest time about starting this podcast. And I decided to hire a company, reasonable prices, Podcast Fast Track. There's a shout out to them, to do the work. And, the thing of it is, like, there's lots of people that can help us. And we don't realize how many resources are out there. And to your point, you can get creative. Schools like nearby you probably have some sort of design school. Like, I know there's probably a design something or other at almost every single college. And
absolutely,
these kids, they want to have some portfolio. And if you probably get in front of a professor and talk them into, like, hey, maybe your students could do like a competition, and I'll give a prize to whoever, and then now you get multiple designs. I don't know, I'm kind of brainstorming, but you went that road and you found a way to make it work. And again, we don't have to do this all by ourselves. So we can find resources out there. So
absolutely. And you just have to believe in your product. I know you said the question was if you're not sure if it'll work, but you just know inside if it's going to work. So don't give up. You have to be persistent too. You have to just get out there and do it. Sure will get you a lot of places.
Absolutely. Because a lot of the times we have this head trash that goes on, and, like, oh, it's not going to work, whatever. But it's just nonsense.
It's
Fear
nonsense.
is a liar.
And don't listen to the naysayers either, because some people will try to trample on your dreams because they think you're wasting money or you're wasting your time. But if you know you have something special, just go for it. There's nothing that should stop you. Just go for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can get creative. You can use your resources, so yeah. So, well, this was awesome. So thank you so much, Kim, for sharing this great knowledge, and sharing a story that's different than how a lot of us got into e-commerce. But I know people will definitely want to know more about your journey. So I will make sure to link down below how they can find some of the resources that you mentioned. So.
Thank you so much. This was an honor, and congratulations to you. I'm really proud of you. Good for you for taking the chance.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Awesome. Thanks so much.